than homegrown veggies, and creating your own veggie garden not only helps you eat well and get out in the fresh air, it's also a really great way to save some money too.
And you might just be surprised by what you can do with the space you've got, even in an apartment or a townhouse. Jimmy Turner, the Director of Horticulture at the Botanic Gardens and Centennial Parklands in Sydney, joins us now. Jimmy, good morning to you. You are, as we speak, at the Botanic Gardens in Sydney, a beautiful part of the world, and we've got our own little garden here. We've got our herbs and veggies here, right here in the studio. Give us some tips, if you could, about how to get started. If you've never really had a garden before, what's your advice to beginners?
Really, the best advice is just start and just do it. I think a lot of people are terrified of killing a plant, and the truth is that's just part of gardening. It's just kind of like cooking. Occasionally you're going to have a failure, but the first thing to do is really have a success, and the success really is plant greens, silver beet, spinach, radishes, mustard greens, kale, anything that's green, lettuce, peas. Those are the absolute easiest thing to grow, and they grow really fast, and they don't need as much sunlight as most other vegetables. So you've got this really quick success, and if you have a problem getting your kid to eat them, get them to grow the plant. There's something about growing a plant you're really interested to know what it tastes like then, and they always taste better when you grow them yourself.
They certainly do. It helps with things like carrots too, which can be, relatively easy to grow. But what about things that actually survive through the seasons? Because I know that a lot of plants, I try really hard and fail a lot of the time with herbs. But what are some things that you can grow all year round?
Things you can grow all year round. Really, mustard greens are one of the things you can plant every day in Sydney. You can plant lettuce pretty much every day in Sydney, except for the hottest part of the summer. Peas are a great one. Probably my absolute favorite, which is easy to grow, that a lot of people don't like to eat, is turnips. If you can't grow a turnip, you've got to give up gardening. These things in about 8 weeks make turnips. You can eat the greens, you can eat the bulbs, and if you don't like turnips, eat them fried. Where I grew up, we fry everything, and these things are just as good as chips when they're fried up.
Wow. I'm sure you could put them in some sort of juice as well these days.
Juice.
Jimmy, obviously we're a national show. Have you got any have you got any veggies or herbs that can basically be grown anywhere in Australia?
Pretty much any of these can be grown anywhere in Australia, and they'll do absolutely great. Funny thing is, if plants didn't grow so well, we all would have starved to death a lot long ago. And we complain about Sydney, but the truth is some of the drier places of Australia with lower humidity actually have less disease than we do here in Sydney. Sydney is actually the hard one because you tend to get powdery mildew and downy mildew and all these other problems. If you live in a drier climate, it's just all about watering with a watering can regularly.
And do you need much in the way of tools and equipment? What are the basics that you can get away with? Well,
the basics are a pair of gloves if you're picky about your fingers, but the truth is dirty hands are a sign of a good gardener. Compost if you're gardening outdoors, if you've actually got a bit of a patch and some space. This is the answer to every gardening problem, is compost. I don't care what anybody says, buy the best compost you can get. It's more important than the plants of the garden. Containers, if you've got a small patch, make sure you've got holes in the bottom because they've got to drain well. The number one thing that kills plants, period, vegetables are houseplants, is people overwater them. And as far as tools go, you can use one of these, but the truth is this works just as well. And probably my number one gardening tool, I hate to say it, is this, because I forget what I plant in a pot 3 weeks later. It's coming up, and I don't know if it's a weed or to eat, and I pull it out. There's a little plant labeled. And the number one, a watering can.
Yeah.
And probably the biggest tip I can give people is to fertilize. I think they plant plants in a garden bed and think we're good, we don't have to feed them anything. They're kind of like us, they need a regular feeding. So go look for a natural organic fertilizer at any nursery center.
I've had issues over the years with caterpillars as well. Just quickly, in terms of preventing the veggies getting eaten before we get to eat them, what's your advice?
Caterpillars are the bane of my existence, and there's a lovely product called Dipel, D-I-P-E-L. Organic product. It's actually a bacteria that doesn't affect humans, doesn't affect pets. You could give it to your kids, no issue. And what it does is it actually gives the caterpillars a bad sense of indigestion, and it kills them. So it's the best product. You mix it with a bit of water and spray it on.
Alrighty. I don't know that I'll be feeding it to the kids quite yet, but good tip. And great advice on all fronts. Jimmy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Isn't he terrific?
Good gardening.
Great hints.
Happy gardening.